What if I told you that the harder you try to win her over, the faster you're programming her brain to reject you? There's a counterintuitive psychological switch that flips attraction on its head, and once you understand it, you'll never waste another second begging for attention that should naturally flow toward you. Listen, every time you send that double text, you're not showing interest. You're broadcasting desperation. Every time you rearrange your schedule to accommodate hers when she wouldn't do the same for you, you're not being flexible. You're signaling that your time has no value. And every single compliment you give while she barely acknowledges your existence isn't making her feel special. It's confirming in her mind that she's above you. This isn't about what you think you're communicating. It's about what her subconscious is receiving. And right now, it's receiving a non-stop transmission that screams, "I have no options, you're my only chance, please pick me." That frequency repels attraction faster than anything else you could possibly do. Here's what nobody wants to admit. The human brain is wired through millions of years of evolution to assign value based on scarcity. Not just resources. Not just food or shelter. Everything. Including attention. Including you. When you're always available, always responsive, always eager, you become the psychological equivalent of air. Essential maybe, but completely taken for granted. Invisible. Worthless in terms of conscious appreciation. But the moment something abundant becomes scarce, the entire equation changes. Suddenly the brain sits up and pays attention. Suddenly there's a threat of loss. And loss triggers something primal that interest never could. It activates the pursuit mechanism that's been dormant this whole time. Think about it. She's not ignoring you because she's genuinely uninterested in human connection. She's ignoring you because there's no cost to it. You'll still be there tomorrow. You'll still be liking her posts. You'll still be available whenever she feels bored enough to respond. She's learned through your behavior that your attention is a renewable resource that requires zero effort to access. You've been trying to build attraction by adding more. More attention. More availability. More niceness. More proof of your value. But attraction doesn't work like building a resume. It's not a logical evaluation of credentials. It operates on completely different principles that have nothing to do with fairness or deservingness. The psychological switch I'm talking about reverses everything you've been doing. Instead of addition, you use subtraction. Instead of pursuing, you withdraw. Instead of proving your value, you embody it through absence. And this isn't a trick or a manipulation. This is you finally aligning your behavior with how attraction actually functions in the human brain. When you remove the one thing she's been taking for granted, your constant availability, you force a complete recalculation. Her brain has to reassess. And in that reassessment, something shifts. The person who was invisible yesterday becomes the person she can't stop thinking about today. Not because you changed who you are, but because you changed how rare you are. She's ignoring your texts, dismissing your efforts, and acting like you're just another option. But what if her arrogance is actually a defense mechanism that crumbles the second you stop feeding it? There's a dark psychology principle that instantly reverses the power dynamic, and it works because it exploits the human brain's addiction to what it can't have. Pay close attention here. Her dismissive behavior isn't confidence. It's a test. She's sorting you into one of two categories: men who need her validation or men who don't. Every time you react to her coldness by trying harder, you're failing that test spectacularly. You're confirming that you need her more than she needs you. She acts indifferent because it's worked on every other guy. They chase harder. They compliment more. They become emotional puppets she can control with the slightest attention or withdrawal. And you've been following that exact script without realizing it. But here's where it gets interesting. That arrogance requires constant fuel. It needs your attention, your pursuit, your visible desire to keep burning. Cut off the fuel supply and watch what happens. The confidence starts flickering, then wavering, then collapsing entirely. Your attention has been her daily validation fix. You've been the reliable source she turns to whenever she needs an ego boost. She posts something, you like it. She sends a lazy response, you send back paragraphs. She goes cold, you check in to make sure she's okay. You've become her emotional vending machine. Insert minimal effort, receive maximum validation. Now imagine that vending machine suddenly disappears. No warning. No explanation. Just gone. What does her brain do? It doesn't shrug and move on. It panics. It starts asking questions. Where did he go? Why isn't he watching anymore? Did I miscalculate his interest? Is there someone else? This is the forbidden algorithm. The human mind obsesses over unsolved puzzles. Open loops create psychological tension that demands resolution. When you were constantly available, you were a closed loop. Solved. Understood. Boring. But the moment you vanish, you become the puzzle her brain can't stop trying to solve. She'll check if you viewed her stories. She'll notice you're not liking her posts anymore. She'll wonder why you haven't texted. And each observation compounds into anxiety. The person who took you for granted yesterday is suddenly hyper-aware of your absence today. This isn't about being mean. This is about stopping the behavior pattern that taught her you're disposable. You're not playing games. You're removing yourself from a game where you were always losing. You're forcing a reset where she has to confront an uncomfortable reality. Maybe you weren't the desperate one. Maybe she just assumed you were. And maybe that assumption just cost her something valuable. The addiction begins when the supply ends. Every text you send, every compliment you give, every attempt to impress her is secretly communicating one thing: I'm beneath you. But the moment you genuinely stop caring whether she stays or goes, her brain enters panic mode and suddenly you become the only person she wants to impress. Here's how to execute the withdrawal that makes you irresistible. Look at your phone right now. Count how many messages you've sent compared to hers. Check who's always initiating contact. Notice who's putting in actual effort versus who's giving breadcrumbs. That imbalance isn't just obvious to you. It's screaming at her subconscious every single day. An imbalance equals low value in the attraction equation. You think you're showing dedication. She sees desperation. You think you're being consistent. She sees predictable. You think you're proving you care. She sees someone with nothing better to do than orbit around her life hoping for scraps. Walking away isn't a tactic. It's a mirror. It shows you exactly how one-sided this entire dynamic has become. And more importantly, it shows her what she's actually losing versus what she thought she had on permanent standby. Here's the brutal truth nobody wants to hear. She's treating you this way because you've allowed it. Not because you're not good enough, but because you've been too available to be valued. You've been the safe backup option while she explores what she thinks are better choices. When you withdraw, do it completely. Not halfway. Not checking to see if she noticed. Not leaving the door open for her to waltz back in with minimal effort. Genuine withdrawal means you're actually moving forward with your life as if she never existed in it. Delete the paragraphs you've drafted. Stop rehearsing conversations in your head. Quit checking her social media 17 times a day. Unfollow if you need to. Mute her stories. Remove the temptation to monitor whether she's noticing your absence. This isn't about her anymore. This is about reclaiming the self-respect you've been hemorrhaging. The vacuum you leave behind does something fascinating. It disrupts her entire routine. She's used to your good morning texts. She's accustomed to your reactions. She's built a daily pattern around your predictable presence. When that suddenly vanishes, it creates a hole in her psychological landscape. That hole bothers her more than your presence ever excited her. Absence triggers loss aversion, which is psychologically more powerful than potential gain. She didn't appreciate what she had until it disappeared without negotiation or drama. No goodbye message. No explanation of why you're done. No final statement about how she made you feel. Just silence. Plain. Permanent. Unexplained. Let her mind fill in the blanks. And trust me, whatever story she creates will make you far more interesting than you could have made yourself through words. The strongest move is the one where you're no longer playing. She's not attracted to nice guys, generous guys, or even good-looking guys. She's biologically wired to obsess over the one man who doesn't seem to need her. This isn't about being cruel. It's about understanding the primal psychology that makes ambiguity more powerful than affection, and using it to become the person she can't stop thinking about. Your brain releases dopamine when you get what you want. But here's the twist. It releases even more when you might get what you want. The uncertainty itself is more intoxicating than the actual reward. Casinos know this. Social media platforms know this. And whether she realizes it or not, her attraction system runs on this exact mechanism. When you're completely transparent about your feelings, you kill the dopamine chase. There's no mystery left. No puzzle to solve. No uncertainty to obsess over. You've given her the ending before the story even started. And humans don't stay engaged with stories when they already know how they end. Indifference isn't pretending not to care. That's just another performance she'll see through immediately. Real indifference comes from having priorities that genuinely matter more than whether she responds. It comes from building a life so compelling that her participation becomes optional instead of essential. Think about the last time you really wanted something. Not when you had it. Not when it was guaranteed. But when you weren't sure if you could get it. That's when your mind couldn't let it go. That's when it consumed your thoughts during random moments throughout the day. Uncertainty creates mental real estate that certainty never could. She's bored by the guys who are obviously into her. Not because she's shallow, but because her brain literally doesn't produce the chemical cocktail necessary for attraction when the outcome is certain. You being clearly available translates to her nervous system as mission accomplished before the mission even began. Now flip it. Become the variable she can't predict. Sometimes warm. Sometimes distant. Always busy with things that don't involve her. Interested but not invested. Engaged but not available. Present but not pursuing. This creates the psychological tension her brain interprets as attraction. Stop asking about her day like you're conducting an interview. Stop being so eager to fill every silence. Stop making yourself so easy to read and even easier to dismiss. The depth she can't quite reach is infinitely more attractive than the open book she can skim through in seconds. Women don't leave relationships because they found someone better. They leave because they found someone less predictable. Someone whose attention feels like an achievement instead of an obligation. Someone who makes them work for validation instead of dispensing it freely. Become comfortable in the unknown. Embrace the power of maybe. Stop trying to secure her interest through consistency. Start creating addiction through calculated inconsistency. The question mark is always more intriguing than the period. Your words have been working against you this entire time. Every explanation, every reassurance, every attempt to communicate your value has been systematically lowering it. But when you replace all that noise with strategic silence, something remarkable happens. She starts writing the narrative in her own mind, and she always makes you more interesting than you could have described yourself. Stop talking so much. Seriously. Every time you over-explain your intentions, you're revealing insecurity. Every time you tell her how great you are, you're proving you need her to believe it. People who actually have value don't need to announce it. They embody it quietly and let others draw their own conclusions. Think about the most intriguing people you've met. They weren't the ones dominating conversations with stories about themselves. They were the ones who said less, revealed little, and left you wanting to know more. Mystery creates magnetism. Transparency creates boredom. You've been giving away your entire story in the first conversation. Your dreams, your past, your fears, your goals. She didn't ask for your autobiography. And even if she did, giving it all away destroys the discovery process that builds investment. People value what they work to uncover, not what's handed to them freely. Silence makes her imagination work overtime. When you don't immediately respond, she starts creating reasons. Is he busy? Is he with someone else? Did I say something wrong? Is he losing interest? Each question is her mind actively engaging with you even though you're not there. That's mental real estate you could never rent through constant communication. Your delayed response isn't about playing games. It's about having a life compelling enough that you're not glued to your phone waiting for her messages. It's about genuinely being occupied with things that matter more than instant replies to someone who barely makes you a priority. Watch what happens when you stop filling every gap in conversation. When you let her statements sit without immediate reaction. When you respond with fewer words than she sent. She'll start putting in more effort. She'll elaborate more. She'll try harder to engage you. Because suddenly your attention feels finite and valuable. The guys she ignores talk endlessly about themselves, seeking validation through verbal diarrhea. The guy she can't stop thinking about barely shares anything, making every small revelation feel significant. Which one are you being right now? Cut your message length in half. then half again. Remove the explanations. Delete the justifications. Stop seeking understanding through paragraphs when silence communicates strength more effectively. Let your actions speak and your absence echo. She's been filling silence her entire life with guys desperate to keep her entertained. Be the first man comfortable enough in his own value to let silence do the heavy lifting. Let her wonder. Let her guess. Let her create a version of you in her mind that's far more compelling than your resume could ever be. Mystery isn't what you hide. It's what you refuse to give away cheaply. She can feel your emotional desperation from a mile away, and it's repelling her faster than any physical flaw could. But the instant you genuinely reclaim your emotional energy and invest it elsewhere, you trigger a primal panic in her brain that whispers, "I'm losing him." And that whisper becomes a scream she can't ignore. Here's the psychological extraction that makes you invaluable. Your mood shouldn't change based on whether she texted back. Your happiness shouldn't hinge on whether she laughed at your joke. Your entire emotional state shouldn't be this fragile house of cards that collapses every time she shows disinterest. But that's exactly what's happening, and she senses it in everything you do. Emotional dependency leaks through your words. It shows up in how quickly you respond when she finally reaches out. It's visible in how you adjust your plans around her availability. It screams from how you react to her mood swings like they're weather patterns you have no choice but to endure. She doesn't want to be responsible for your happiness. That's an exhausting burden nobody signs up for. When your emotions rise and fall with her attention, you're essentially making her your emotional parent. And nothing kills attraction faster than being forced into a caretaker role. Real emotional independence means you're genuinely okay whether she's around or not. Your day doesn't improve dramatically when she shows interest. It doesn't crash when she goes silent. You maintain your internal equilibrium regardless of her behavior. And that stability is magnetic in ways desperation never could be. Start investing your emotional energy into things with guaranteed returns. Your fitness, your career, your friendships, your skills, your hobbies. These things actually give back when you put in effort. She doesn't. She takes your emotional investment and offers breadcrumbs in return, training you to accept less while giving more. Notice how her indifference affects you less when you're genuinely focused on meaningful pursuits. Notice how her games lose power when you've got real accomplishments fueling your self-worth. This isn't fake confidence. This is actual foundation built on things you control instead of her unpredictable validation. Stop making her problems your emergency. Stop absorbing her bad moods like you're responsible for fixing them. Stop letting her emotional chaos disrupt your peace. Maintain your boundaries. Keep your center. Show her through consistent behavior that you're unmoved by manipulation tactics that work on everyone else. When you finally detach emotionally, something shifts in her perception. The guy who was always emotionally available suddenly has walls. The person whose mood she could influence now seems immune to her power. That loss of control bothers her more than she'll admit. She'll test whether your detachment is real. She'll try the old tactics that used to get emotional reactions. Don't take the bait. Stay steady. Your emotional unavailability will create the space where her emotional investment can finally grow. Protect your peace like it's your most valuable asset. Because it is. You've been operating from scarcity, treating her like she's your only option, your best chance, your one shot at happiness. She can sense this desperation in every interaction, and it's precisely why she's treating you like you're disposable. But when you genuinely adopt an abundance mentality and make her compete for a position in your life, everything changes. Here's how to flip the script completely. Scarcity mindset shows up in ways you don't even realize. It's in how you cancel plans with friends when she suddenly becomes available. It's in how you prioritize her flaky maybe over everyone else's definite yes. It's in how you treat her mediocre attention like it's the best thing that's ever happened to you. She knows she's your only focus. And that knowledge destroys any perceived value you might have. Because if nobody else wants you, why should she? If you're not desired elsewhere, what makes you desirable to her? Your exclusivity isn't flattering. It's a red flag signaling that you can't attract other options. Real abundance isn't about pretending other women exist. It's about actually building a life where they do. Expand your social circle genuinely. Pursue activities where you naturally meet people. Become interesting enough that attention flows toward you without you chasing it. This isn't manipulation. This is becoming the kind of person who actually has choices. When you have legitimate options, your entire energy shifts. You stop clutching desperately at one person because you're terrified of losing your only chance. You start evaluating whether someone actually adds value to your life. You become the selector instead of the selected. Let her see your social. Let her notice other women engage with you. Don't announce it. Don't try to make her jealous explicitly. Just live a life where your world doesn't revolve around her availability. Post about activities she's not part of. Mention friends she hasn't met. Be genuinely busy when she reaches out. The shift happens when she realizes she's in a competition she didn't know existed. Suddenly she's not the prize you're chasing. She's a contestant hoping to win your sustained attention. That role reversal changes everything about how she approaches you. Stop acting like she's doing you a favor by responding. Stop treating her time as more valuable than yours. Stop accepting behavior from her you'd never tolerate from anyone else. Hold her to the same standards you'd hold any other person in your life. Watch how differently she behaves when she thinks she might lose you to someone else. Watch how her effort increases when she's no longer certain of her position. Watch how her arrogance transforms into actual investment when she realizes you're evaluating her, not auditioning for her. Scarcity makes you tolerate disrespect. Abundance makes you require respect. Which mindset are you actually living from? Because she already knows the answer and she's treating you accordingly. Become worth competing for, then watch them compete. Nothing you've tried has worked because you've been playing a game where she makes all the rules and you're desperate to follow them. But there's a complete system reboot that doesn't just level the playing field. It tilts it entirely in your favor. By implementing a total interaction reset, you force her to abandon her position of power and start over from scratch, except this time you're the prize. Here's the complete protocol. First, get brutally honest about where you stand right now. She responds hours later while you reply in minutes. She makes plans then cancels. You rearrange your life to fit hers. She puts in minimal effort. You compensate with maximum investment. Write this down. See the imbalance in black and white. This is your starting point and it's unacceptable. The reset requires complete pattern destruction. Everything she's come to expect from you needs to stop immediately. The good morning texts end. The constant availability vanishes. The emotional support you've been providing without reciprocation stops. The validation you've been handing out gets withdrawn entirely. This isn't gradual. Gradual change gets rationalized and dismissed. Total transformation creates confusion that forces reevaluation. She needs to look at your behavior and think, who is this person? Because the old version of you has completely disappeared. Go dark across every platform. Stop liking her posts. Stop viewing her stories. Stop being the predictable presence she's learned to take for granted. Your digital footprint in her life should go from constant to completely absent. No warnings. No explanations. Just gone. When she reaches out, and she will, your response needs to contradict everything she's experienced before. Short replies. Delayed timing. Zero emotional availability. Busy with things that don't include her. Unavailable when she expects you to be free. Indifferent where you used to be eager. The cognitive dissonance this creates is powerful. Her brain has categorized you as the pursuer, the emotionally available one, the safe backup option. When you suddenly don't fit that category anymore, she's forced to recategorize. And during that recategorization process, you become interesting again. She'll test whether this is real. She might show sudden interest to see if you'll snap back to old patterns. She might go cold to see if you'll chase like before. Don't bite. Maintain the new standard. Show her through consistency that the old version of you is permanently retired. Only after sustained behavioral change from her side do you consider gradual re-engagement. Not when she sends one decent message. Not when she's temporarily interested. When she's demonstrated through actions over time that she's willing to match your effort and respect your value. If you found this valuable, subscribe now because the next video reveals the 3 texts that make her panic when you go silent. The psychological triggers most guys never learn. Don't miss it. The reset isn't temporary. It's your new foundation.